Lean concepts and tools. So we've talked a little bit about lean so far. So what is the main concept of lean? What would y'all say is the main concept of lean manufacturing? What is it supposed to be doing? Efficiency is one of the biggest things, right? We're trying to trim down everywhere there might be excess. And it actually is becoming more and more of a culture. So it's all about eliminating waste in the world. Okay? It's something that a lot of businesses are picking up, and that is why they're trying to implement it as a culture in their company. What do we mean by culture? Well, it is an idea or attitude and a behavior of a certain group or groups. Okay? So for the concepts of lean, this is doing things that create or add value to it that a customer is willing to pay for. If it doesn't add value, it is waste. So what do we mean by add value? Well, let's say I'm building a car. If the things I'm doing to that car add value, then it's good. But a lot of the things we do don't add value to anything, do they? I'll put it this way. How many of y'all cook? Okay. So when you're cooking, what are you looking to do to your food? Make it taste good. Now then, does every little thing you do make it taste good? Or is a lot of it just trying to get it prepped to do something with it? Same thing for lean. It's how do I take something and make it a product, right? Because the whole purpose of eating food, of making food, is you're wanting the end product, right? I don't care if it's ramen, a steak, potatoes, rice, anything. All of the things you're trying to do are supposed to add value. You're wanting to add flavor. You're wanting to make something. Most of the things we do, like chopping the vegetables or peeling the carrots and potatoes, none of that adds value, does it? It's just a part of the process. Okay? So value is the product of service, which means customers' requirements at the price they are willing to pay for when they request it. We're trying to always provide the right product. The whole thing about it is that, first of all, let's back up a little bit. Who is a customer? What is a customer? Do they have to buy it? No. Basically, you're taking something that is a product and handing it on to the next person that needs it. That is the best way to call a customer. Okay? Because customers are not just an external entity to a company. They can be internal too. If you have a machine shop on deck, right? And I need a product for something, and I send off a request to the machine shop. Am I exchanging money? But do I still need that product? I am an internal customer. An external customer is the one we commonly think of as the customer, right? They're the ones that we sit there and go, here, have this, I take your money, bye. Right? But an internal customer are the ones that sit there and go, hey, I really need XYZ part tomorrow. You go make XYZ part, hand it over, okay, thank you, and they go and do whatever they need to do with it. right? All right, so I'm trying to make it to where I don't remember where I got a lot of this, but a lot of it starts coming off as a sales pitch, and I'm trying not to do that with this time around. So what does it take to go lean? The old concept of manufacturing was to push product, push product, push product, right? I'm going to make all this product, I'm going to push it to the customer, right? Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it. Get my product out there, get it sold, no matter what. With what lean is trying to do is, instead of pushing your product at your customer, is let them pull it from you. What does that mean? Well, you don't make it if they don't order it. Put it a bit of a different way. McDonald's. How many of you eat at McDonald's? What do? They make a lot of their food what? God, no, they do not make it fresh. They make it ahead of time. They will make 20 burgers ahead of time, sit them on a warmer. Does it matter if a customer orders it? No, because all they're going to do is eventually throw it in the trash if you don't order it. How much waste is that? Versus, let's say, what place makes burgers? I don't eat hamburgers. Baja Burger. Y'all ever eat Baja Burger? Do you think they make all those burgers ahead of time? No. They make it when you order it. What is the difference in product? You got quality. You've got everything is better. Does it cost a little more? Yeah. But is it a fresh product that tastes better? Oh yeah. McDonald's is pushing. They are trying to push their product. They make all of it ahead of time and say, hey, we're just going to leave this here. Come and get it if you want it. Versus someplace like Baja that's said, okay, well, you ordered a turkey burger. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to make your burger. You made one. I give you one. All right? That is the base concept of lean. Do you think they throw out a bunch of stuff at the end of the night at Baja? No. They're going to have only the waste created in the process. They're not going to have, I can't think of McDonald's without being grossed out myself. They're not going to have 5 trash cans full of dead food. What do I mean by dead food? I mean food that if you serve it to the customer, it'd be illegal. Because it is, well, let's say OSHA would have a fit. How about that? OSHA would have a royal fit with some of the stuff McDonald's would try and push. There's a reason that there are very strict laws and codes these days, right? Don't feed some customers a 3-day-old burger. Not allowed to do that. Okay? So, going back to a little bit of the history, we talked a little bit about value stream. And that's looking at a process and determining what adds value. So let's talk about cooking. And yes, I know I'm probably making you hungry because it's getting close to dinner time. I'm sorry. It's the best way I know to get the point across here. Okay, so looking at what adds value to your meal. Okay? So you've gone and bought all your ingredients. You're getting ready to cook dinner. Through the process, you have to prep all your food. Does that add value? Not very much, right? That's a little bit of taste value, but peeling carrots and chopping up broccoli does not add a super ton of value, right? Because all you're just doing is sitting there, just having to stand there forever and ever, amen, prepping your food. So what adds value? What gives me that finished product? When you're cooking, the finished product comes from what? Comes from cooking it, from adding heat. That adds the most value to your meal. Because otherwise you eat raw chicken. Get salmonella. That's never good. Right? So the whole process of value stream mapping is, where is my value added? Is it added when I'm having to sit there and scrub my vegetables before I peel them? No, not really. Is it me peeling them and maybe using the peelings for a stock or a stew or something else later? Could be. Is it going to come from chopping everything up so that I can cook it? No, that's just wasting a lot of time and effort, but we have to do it anyway, right? There's no real value added. You don't add flavor. You're just having to chop it up smaller so you can cook it easier. It's not really adding anything to your dish. Does that make sense? The biggest value added is, if we're talking flavor, putting the spices on, making it cook. Those are the value added activities that give you a good meal. Do y'all agree? So if we're to map that process out, those were the major value adders. Okay? So this whole value stream concept is doing that exact thing, only it's looking at a whole company, a whole manufacturing process. They're looking at it and going, what adds value here? Where am I getting the most value and able to reattain the most money from something? What does my customer require of this vehicle or of this, heck, let's say jump rope? Where is my value created? That is what it's looking for. So it looks at everything from concept to engineering, raw materials, product launch, taking orders to deliver, to scheduling, delivery, and supporting of the customer. So it's looking from beginning to end of that process, from the time the concept is created to the time it's given to the customer. Where is my value added? Okay? If I'm engineering a jump rope, let's just go with a jump rope here. Do I really need an engineer to design a jump rope? Well, if I'm looking to make a new kind of jump rope, let's say a weighted jump rope that's got weights throughout so that you have a fitness rope. Yeah, an engineer kind of would be useful for that, right? So then, where are my raw materials? Am I making this out of synthetic fiber? Am I making it out of cotton? Where is my value in my raw materials? And when I get done with that, creating and launching that product, right? So I'm going to start having to look from beginning to end of this value stream. Where's my value? Where are my people making their money? Right? I'll give you for another example. Let's talk Mercedes. Mercedes is pretty much, they're an interesting company, right? Because do they actually create anything? No, what do? They're not a manufacturing plant, they're an assembly plant. Two totally different things, right? Because what they've done is they have essentially taken all their processes and said, I'm going to give this process to you, I'm going to give it to you, and to you. I want nothing to do with it, I just want to build it. Okay? So their idea is a little bit harder to come through with a value stream, right? Because for them, it's the value stream starts with the ordering from who? Their value stream starts with ordering from their vendors and praying that they have what they need. Because otherwise, does Mercedes get to make their car? Nah. Okay. So I said I'm trying to go through some of this a little bit faster. So one of the things you can focus on is things like product family. What is similar in make and models and stuff? Excuse me. So what is similar in different steps? Where do I have places that I can coalesce my production and make it that much faster and easier for it to come together? Does that make sense? So if you're doing brackets, it has to be spot welded, flash remove, painted, and then done into manual assembly. Well, why don't I just create a whole small department that does all that in one go? I create a jig that does left hand, right hand, done. I don't have to do a giant batch of right hands and then do a giant batch of left hands. Why don't I just do them both at the same time? Would that add a little less time? Yeah. Would be a lot faster for my productionist too, right? And then I don't overproduce one side and not the other. Does that make sense? Just coalesce it all into one. All right, like I said, I'm trying to go through some of this, but this is the big one. These are called the 7 wastes. Now, again, we talked about waste as things that do not add value. One of the biggest ones is overproduction. When we overproduce things, just like at Mercedes, we end up with what? What happens? At Mercedes, you're losing money. Because why? Because I've overproduced the amount of cars and I've got them all sitting on my lot. Well, what happens if I can't sell all those cars? I'm going to have to discount them, sell them off to my dealers for a lesser cost. What does that mean for me? It means I've lost a lot of money, right? Waste starts with overproduction. I'll give you, looking back at your supper. Okay, y'all eat leftovers? Yeah, because you first start with overproduction, right? In some cases, overproduction is fine. If you're going to use it, overproduction is fine. But in other cases, it's not. All right? Overproduction is one of the biggest waste of everything. Why? Because everything we overproduce eventually just ends up in the what? Look at McDonald's. What happens to all their burgers? Get thrown away. We have waiting time. So let me go ahead and just get all these up here. So let's put a hold on waiting time. Let's look at transportation. What is transportation? It means that not only do I have to take all this overproduction and do something with it, I've got the cost of moving it in general, right? Going between Baja Burger and McDevil's. And yes, I do call it that. With McDevil's, you end up with all this food that has to be transported back and forth to the warmer, right? Why? Because they overproduced. If you look at Baja Burger, how much transporting do? They do it from the cook to you. It's not a lot of transport. Processing, okay? Processing is what? Let's say we don't like pickles on our burger. At Baja, we tell them we don't want pickles on the burger to begin with. Do they have pickles on your burger when it comes to you? No. Going back to McDonald's, if you tell them you don't want pickles, what do they got to do? They're pulling off pickles, or they're going to give it to you with pickles. That's over processing. That's ridiculous, right? And then while you're having to wait for them to pull the pickles off, right? Who wants to wait for them to sit there and have to reconstruct the burger because they put pickles on your burger? There's another problem, right? So wait time is ridiculous, right? Because you're having to stand there while they customize something they've already made. Okay. So we've talked about processing, transportation, wait time, and overproduction. Let's talk about inventory. We already talked about inventory. The bad thing about inventory is that you end up tying up all your what? Tie up all your money. You tie up a lot of time in nothing that's not going to have to be redone anyway. What was the purpose of it? Right? What was the purpose of making all those burgers when I'm just going to have to pull pickles off, or I'm going to have to take the meat and put it on a new bun because the customer didn't want ketchup and mustard all over it, or didn't want the McDonald's sauce? God. Motion, wasted motion. You're having the employees having to run everywhere trying to get your meal together, right? Inefficient processes create excessive motion. There you go. Doing something whenever the process isn't correct means that you're just tying up time and effort, right? Your poor employees are going to be absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. And then you end up with a lot of defects. Defects are the killer, right? What are defects? Defects are what tie up everything. That's why Mercedes has what? You said 4 lots full of cars that have to be fixed? That's still ridiculous. Considering I've seen the parking lot, that is ridiculous. That's probably about 500 cars plus. Ugh. If you have defects of any sort, is the customer willing to pay for it? Yeah. You're talking about tying up a lot of money with those defects, if not just throwing it away. Okay? There's an 8th waste that I like to talk about, and that's the fact that you're wasting human potential. The people at, let's say, the people at McDonald's look like they enjoy their job. No. God, no. They always look like they are one step away from quitting, right? I've never seen a McDonald's employee that is actually physically happy. You saw a unicorn? Oh, you took a puppy. That's the only, yeah. Like I said, you'll never really see one happy to be working there, right? Probably because they're not being told to do stupid work all day long. Versus look at somebody like Baja Burger. Do those people look like they're enjoying their job? Yes. Why? Because they're not told to do stupid work all day long. They're not told, look busy, the boss is coming. Or, God, the one I hate the worst. And I've had several managers that told me this. And tell me if you've ever heard this. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. How many of you have ever heard a manager tell you that? Nobody, just me? Must mean attitude's changing because I've had several managers tell me, you lean in there, you got time to clean stuff up. Why would I bother cleaning? There's somebody that comes and does the cleaning already, and why? Because you need to look busy. We need to feel like we're actually making you earn your money other than the fact that you're waiting to serve a customer. No joke. I have had people tell me that. I'm just going, and what exactly are you wanting me to do? Seriously, I worked at a fabric department and I had every bolt of fabric neatly put away. Everything was in perfect order. Hadn't had a customer in a little bit and I was just kind of leaning on the counter and they come up to me and go, what you doing? Why aren't you doing something? What do you want me to do? Well, if you don't need something to do, I'll find something to do. If I'm away from the counter, you yell at me. If I'm here at the counter, you yell at me. Why does this make me want to work here? Human potential gets wasted because we demand it to be. Right? Think about everybody that's ever sat there and said, I hate my job. Why is it that they hate their job? Because they're doing what? They're doing stupid work. Because somebody's just sitting there and going, well, you need work, here's work. You need work, go make about 50 burgers. Why? We haven't had anybody, we're not going to have anybody, the lunch rush is over. We're not going to have anybody start coming in really until about 5 o'clock when dinner rush starts. Well, we might have the possible chance of a need for 50 burgers. But if we make them ahead of time, we will have overproduction, which means that we're going to be, and you can just see the cycle starting, right? All because somebody demanded overproduction and they demanded stupid work. Because they want to feel like they have you there for a reason. Instead of just letting you do what you need to do. All right? So this kind of ties into one of your assignments, guys. I'm going to go ahead and talk to y'all about it now because I want y'all to really start thinking about it and think it through. And I want y'all to start looking for the waste that y'all have produced in your lives. I'll give you for an example of mine. There's a reason I've got a mini fridge in my office. The reason is I had a realization of my own. I was stopping to get Pepsi's for $3 or $3.50 for 2 bottles. I was feeling pretty good about that, right? Why? Because, well, it's not $4, it's just $3.50. But what am I wasting? I'm wasting time. I'm wasting money. I can easily get a little mini fridge for less than $500 or even less than that, depending on the size. And I can keep my own stock of drinks in my office. That was my realization. You know, I can keep a whole stack of Pepsi cans in my office, pour them into a cup that won't spill, and then I just have that for the day. I waste less. That's the kind of thing I want y'all to start looking for in your life. Where is this waste? Where am I wasting? I don't care if it's time. I don't care if it's money. Where is the waste? Where are you finding the clunky process? Okay? Mine came whenever I sat there and said, you can get the little 6-packs of bottles for, they do sometimes do a 10 for 10 down in Winn-Dixie, or a 5 for 10, I think, where they like $2 up for 6. That gives you way more value. Think about that for a minute. There are things like that that we do every day that we all of a sudden just have that light bulb moment of, what am I doing? Because you assign yourself that same thing. You assign yourself stupid work, right? So start looking for that, and I want y'all to have three of them. I want you to really look at them and try and determine how would you fix them. Because the second assignment after that is I want you to go ahead and fix them. You know, it can be in your work life. I actually had somebody that reorganized a whole section of his place at work and created more efficiency. And his boss let him and actually thanked him for it. Why? Because he made the ordering process a million times easier. He sat there and looked at it and said, here's the order form that is a consistent order form we use. And yet here is my section that has to be ordered, but my product is all over the place. What if instead, all I had to do was go rack by rack, and he actually did it. He created that efficiency. And it wasn't so much even about efficiency, it was just less what? Well, here's this. Okay, where is that supposed to be? It's supposed to be up there. Oh, here's the next one. It's supposed to be over here. That's wasted motion in just in general. It's all stupid work, right? Where is the stupid work you have assigned yourself? I want y'all to seriously start thinking about that. Okay? And I want you to find 3 of them. I want you to document them, and then the next assignment is I want you to take pictures or video of it being fixed. Okay? Show me that you actually followed through on your plan to upgrade yourself. Okay? Does that make sense? Sound kind of fun? Cool and interesting? So keep in mind these 7 wastes and think about that 8th waste. The 8th one's the one that gets you all the time, right? Keep in mind these wastes and start looking for them. You'll find them. Believe you me, you will find them. So what's the biggest problem we tend to have with a lot of things? Is we have inventory, which is caused by overproduction, right? Overproduction creates that inventory, and everything's fine up until you start getting rid of the inventory, right? And then you start seeing the bad things come up. The rocks like to hide underneath, but when that water starts going down, you're gonna wreck your boat. It always looks great when you got a bunch of inventory in front of you. up until it starts not looking so great. So wait time, processing defects, and overproduction. These are those hidden rocks that you have to sit there and go, oh crap, what are we doing? Are we McDonald's or are we Baja Burger? Where do you want to be? So the ways we look for these. That's not too bad, right? All right. So the first thing we always do look at are called the 5 whys. Okay? So let's talk about those real quick. They're really fairly simple. And the whole thing started with, again, Toyota production saying, why is this way? Okay, why is it that way? Why? Asking yourself why 5 times to determine why something is effective or necessary in that service. Okay? Why do like, if we're going to be McDonald's, why do I have so much money tied up? Why am I losing so much money? Why is all of this happening? Why? You start asking yourself that, and all of a sudden you sit there and go, oh, whoa. Yeah, I guess I really don't need to be doing that. Okay? So start asking 5 whys. You're asking it 5 times to try and suss out what's going on. Along with the 5 whys are the 5 S's. Eventually you can get down out of 5S into something a lot easier. But we're going to talk about the 5 S's. And that is sorting, setting, standardize, shine, sustain. Which one of these do you think is the hardest one to do? Sustain. What is the hardest habit? What is the hardest part of making any habit? Getting it to sustain, right? Hardest part of any diet or any exercise routine is sticking with it. Because at some point, you always just want to sit there and go, what? Nope, don't want to do it. Bye. Right? Tired of messing with it, don't want to do it. Or it starts as sometimes a very slow, I don't feel like doing it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Next day comes, I don't want to do it today. I'll do it next week. It becomes a very hard thing to do, right? It is a very steep downhill roll. So the first thing you always have to do is sort and discard. I don't know how many of y'all do donations yearly to Goodwill or King's Home or what, King's Ranch, isn't it now? Or Hannah Ranch? I don't know. They've got some weird name now. It ain't Hannah Home. It's King's Home. It's King's Ranch and Hannah Home became together, and they made King's Home. That's the one. So, just like any pack rat in the world, what do you have to do? Just like any problem you ever have, you have to admit there's a problem. You have to. It's just like AA. What happened? There's a problem. You know, I don't care who you are. You have an inner hoarder of something. For my father, it's an inner hoarder of tools. If you ever go down into the basement, you are faced with like 5 tool chests full of tools. Some get used a lot. Others, I don't think he even remembers he has. It's, what is your problem? In this case, what is the problem? What is there a problem? For somebody like my mom and grandmother, it's, we don't like to get rid of stuff, I might need it. If that is something that goes in your head, start taking that and make it go away. Because that is a big problem. I'm one of those people that I keep only what I need. I've got a bunch of shirts. I've got a bunch of jeans. I don't remember the last time I wore a dress. Take that back. I do have a couple of them. They are strictly for certain events. But otherwise, I tend to go through my clothes just about every season. I start looking at them and say, okay, this is ratty, this is done, bye, 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 bye. My mom has a closet full of clothes she can't do that with, and I sit there and laugh at her. We all have that thing, right? I don't care if it's kitchen gadgets, your closet, what have you. You have a thing. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to sort and discard. So you can take it from messy to neater. How do we do this? Right? We do it by, first of all, telling ourselves some things are actually unnecessary, right? No, I don't need this for later. I can always go get another one if I must have it. This is how you stop becoming a hoarder. By the way, it's a 5-step process. Sorry. I said I have some people with that issue in my family, and I keep trying. So unnecessary items, if it has no value, if it's trash, get rid of it, right? That is always the most basic thing, is if you start cleaning an area, if it's trash, hey, trash can, trash meat trash can, right? If it retains some value, so let's say you're going through your grandpa's house, okay? Or you're going through some sort of room and you find something of value. It's not of value to you, but could be of value to somebody, either emotional value or physical value. If it's physical value, but it has no emotional value, you can always go sell it, right? You'll find somebody to take it. Amen. If it's of emotional value, you can always give it to the person who holds it in that emotional value until they decide they don't want it. Okay? Or if it's no value, but it's so costly to dispose of, you just kind of keep it around anyway. Then you have to look out for a way to get rid of it. Any necessary items we keep and we set. Okay? Once you get rid of all the junk, let's say you're cleaning out a garage. That's the best way to think about this. Let's clean out the garage, right? How many people have a messy garage? You have a mess somewhere in your garage, right? Believe you me, I know what garages look like. I've never seen one that is utter perfection. So first of all, you've got to get all the junk out. You've got to move it out, sort it. If it's emotional, you keep it. If it's total junk, you junk it. If it's something like an old TV that uses tubes, you have to find a way to dispose of it later. You'll have no idea what I'm talking about by the tube TVs, do you? They're the ones with that are very deep. Those are the old tube TVs. It's illegal. The trash people will not pick them up, and you cannot donate them. I've got one at home. Let me know if you find out. You have to find some way. They will not take them whole. I'll put it that way. Something like that. Actually, you really cannot donate those old TVs. Okay, so now we've gotten down to our necessaries, right? We've got down to the stuff we have to keep. So we start arranging according to necessity. Okay? Everything should be accessible within 60 seconds is a little bit short of a time, but God knows that makes it a blessing, right? What does that mean? It means, can you actually physically lay hands on it without doing the search? How many of you have ever had to do what I like to call the search? And that's where you go look at every freaking drawer in the toolboxes around you, trying to find the one item that they swear they put away. We've all done this, yes? Good, it's not just me that has ever, I swear if my dad sits there and says, go find me this, it's never where he left it. I always ask him, well, where would it be? His answer, I don't know. Great help, thanks. So accessibility is necessity. Now, what they're doing here is one of two things. You can set them in foam, which is a really great way to do it, but that can be expensive. Or you do what I like to call the shadow method, whereby you have a way of knowing what is supposed to be there, and when it's not there, you should know where it is. Okay? They have silhouettes, they have cutouts, they have some way of saying, this is what this looks like, this is where this should be. Okay? In other words, you take that drawer that is full of ratchet heads, and you are supposed to know where they're supposed to be. Instead of, okay, you need a 20 millimeter. Okay, that's not that one, that's not that one, that's not that one. Okay, that one? No, it's not that one. Anybody ever done that one? So set in order, you label things, you put things in a way that you can easily get to them. In a factory, they do what's called floor taping. Why? Because it makes it visible something is supposed to be there, right? It also says this area belongs to this area belongs to this. Don't junk up the area, right? You ever been in a manufacturing area? That is exactly what they do. They try and make it to where this is supposed to go. Especially the ones that start really believing in lean. They do this. Why? Because it makes it easier, right? You need another break? About another hour. So let's get through set and I'll let y'all take a break. Okay. So set and order implementation, if it's frequently used, it needs to be where it can be accessed most easily. In other words, if you need a screwdriver, you need to be able to find a freaking screwdriver. One of the most common tools, right? You need to be able to lay hands on it. If it's sometimes used, maybe put it in a place that's not the prominent place, right? I don't need this, so maybe you stick instead of right here at hand, I put it a little further away. If it's not used but must be kept, let's say it's that specialty tool, like a pipe threader. Yes, they do make such things. Then maybe you don't need to have that as right here in your main workspace, but mainly in the secondary workspace, right? All right. I'm going to pause it out. Standardizing. Standardizing is kind of hard to do, especially because you have to make sure everybody's what? You have to get everybody on the bandwagon. Standardizing works only if everybody is up to those same standards. So if we're going to cook, right? Y'all ever cook with people in the kitchen trying to help you? They do it up to your standard? No, you have to show them how to do it to your standard so that you can get them to do what you're asking them to do, right? So one of the ways we can standardize, especially in a factory setting, is we use tape identifiers. One of the biggest ones you'll ever see are the black and yellows. Why? Because especially with forklifts, they tape off where you're supposed to walk, right? You walk here, you do not walk here. Forklifts do not cross that line. Unfortunately, it happens anyway, so you have to always be careful. The second one is shine. And that means that you're polishing everything up, you're keeping to the standard, you're making everything in order, right? So standards have to vary from place to place, and the shine of it has to vary from place to place. But the whole purpose of shine is to just keep everything in that order. Once you have set the order, you're trying to maintain the order. Does that make sense? So, everybody has their own ways of doing that. So, once you've done this, once you've sorted, you set, you've created the standards you're wanting to keep, you have to keep inspecting and fixing. It sucks. It really does. We all hate it, right? Because it is so much easier when you come into the house to just sit there and dump your stuff on wherever and just let it go, right? It's kind of like a diet. Sometimes I'm just in a rush. I don't care about keeping my diet. I'm going to go to McDonald's just because I don't care at that point. The thing about shine is you have to force yourself to care. You have to force yourself until you get to the last thing, which is standardize. Probably the hardest one to do is to set that standard and hold yourself to it. Okay? Because this is what we want to do. We don't like keeping that standard. It's so much easier to eat junk food than to stay on a diet, right? Our bodies sit there and say, why are you doing this to me? Our brain says, why are we doing this? And we have to keep telling ourselves, because it's necessity, right? It's not because the boss is around. It's not just because it's at the beginning of the week. We've all done this. We've set the standard, we keep the standard. Because we are trying to create sustain. And sustain is the hardest one. Holding that line, telling ourselves, no, we're not going to just throw everything around and let it go. We have to keep it to where we want it to be. That is the hardest place to stay, right? Think about, again, any routine you start. For the first little while, it's great. You try and get into that habit. Supposedly, it's easy to create a habit. You're supposed to do it 5 days, 5 weeks. I don't remember what the standard of that is, and supposedly the habit will create itself. Good habits are very easy to break, aren't they? The bad habits, it's a pain to break a bad habit. It is easy to break a good habit. That is what they don't tell you with these so-called motivational speakers. They want to always tell you about how to do stuff. They tell you, oh, it's so easy to create a habit. Yes, the habit can be easy to create. However, sustaining that habit, if it's a good habit, it's like pulling teeth. It's like trying to pull your fingernails out to hold on to that line, right? A bad habit, you can't break that sucker. It is a royal pain to break a bad habit. This is the hardest one to do because it can be so easy to backslide, right? All it takes sometimes is just a bad day and the habit goes away, right? Sustain is easy to talk about, not so easy to do. With most places, it's all about the leadership roles. You have to have your boss sometimes has to crack down, right? It becomes that thing of, we just cleaned this, we just set it in order, this looked great. Now we have to keep it there. And as the boss, it's their job to do what? It's their job to hold your feet to the fire and make sure you stay that way, right? It sucks, and you actually end up wanting to dog cuss them because you're sitting there going, I just did this yesterday. I'm sick and tired of doing this. Why do we have to do this? That is your mental argument every time, right? But at the same time, your boss is sitting there still telling you, you got to go do it, right? Sustain is the hardest. This is a great little tool display, right? It only works as long as what? It only works as long as you sustain it. That's where you have to promote those good habits. It's where you reward good habits. It's just, I hate to say it, but training humans is almost like training a dog. You have to keep promoting the good habits, right? I hate to say it, but we all look for that praise, that, oh, you did a good job, yay you, good job, gold sticker. We all look for that, and I hate to say it, but we do. So keeping something like this, generally, yes, you always end up being the person that wants the pat on the head and being told, yes, you're doing a good job, here, have a gold star. I hate to say it, but it is true. None of us want to think about it like that, but that's the best way to keep a habit, is have somebody always coming behind you and saying, good job. Is it easy to do it whenever it's just yourself saying good job? No. Again, good habits, easy to break. Bad habits, I'll just do it another day. Oh wait, I did that again? Oh man, I broke the habit again? I don't care, I'm not doing it anymore. Very, very easy to break it. All right, so one of the biggest ones we use is what are called visual controls. Okay? So this is usually used, again, in manufacturing, but it can be used at home as well. What do we mean by visual controls? We mean that we use different visual things to tell us when something's gone wrong or when something is working all right. Okay? So you keep trying to make things visual. So we use everything we can to create these controls. You don't want a bunch, because if a vision becomes too crowded, do we really see anything? I'll put it to you a different way. Whenever you look at a picture of, let's say, the New York City skyline, or any city skyline, is it really easy to pick out the different buildings, or does it just look like one clump of buildings? It's a very crowded crowded area, right? You're not seeing the individual buildings. You can sit there and go, okay, I see the top of the Empire State Building. I can see maybe that building over there. But if you actually look a little bit lower, you cannot tell the forest from the trees, right? You cannot look at the individual trees and go, there's that building, there's that building. It's too crowded in. Okay? If you have too many visual things, our brains just immediately give up and say, screw it. Our brains are interesting. Because the way our brains work is, believe it or not, your brain actually can count on its own without you telling it to do so. Think about it. If you look at, let's say, a group of people, if there's maybe 5 to 10 people, your brain can recognize how many people are in that group, right? You start looking at a crowd of people, is your brain able to sit there and go, okay, there's this many people? No. Once you hit about 10 or so, your brain gives up and says, group, bye. It does this. It is a very interesting thing that our brains do. But once that visual field becomes overcrowded, our brain gives up and just says, okay, whatever. Right? So with visual controls, we have to keep them to a minimum that are still able to be understood. We want them to be easy to see and to get your attention and be understandable and have effects on you. Okay? Very fast, very easy ones that we use all day long. With things like this, I know y'all probably can't see this well, but what they've got on here are different color cards telling you work centers. It tells you what the work is, and it's telling you this job is hot, meaning that probably is one that I need. If I'm working in that work center, what do I need to do? That says the word hot, I probably need to go grab that, right? That's visual control. Okay? How can we implement that in our own areas? Well, kind of like this. What they've created here is a visual control. Here are the different process kits. Here's the different processes. If you order this, we have to go through this sequence. One of the easiest, let's say at home. I don't know what kind of projects y'all do at home. Let's kind of say you own your own home. How can I tell what projects I've got to do first? Well, maybe one of the easiest ways, let's say if we're doing the yard. I know, yard work always sucks, right? What is the process that we use to take care of our yard? We need the lawnmower, the weed eater, the leaf blower, right? And exactly that order. Yeah? So maybe one of the visual controls I can do is I can set up an area with just those 3 machines. Easily accessible, easy to get to, and easy to drag them in and out of, and set in the order that I will use them. So the first thing I can pull out is the lawnmower. I don't have to work to get it out because it's right there. Right? So all I've got to do is move behind it, push it out, start it, and go. Once I'm done with that, before I put the lawnmower up, I might set it aside to the side of my garage. And what do I go in and grab next? It's right there in front of me. I grab the weed eater, right? Take that up, start it up, walk out, get it done, set it to the side. Third final process, leaf blower, same thing. And then I put them up in the reverse order I used them. Leaf blower goes up first, weed eater second, Finally, your lawnmower. That would make yard work a lot more efficient, yes? That would make it go faster because you're not having to drag out the lawnmower under 6 million tons of crap. Because what do we always do with anything that's got a handle? We hang stuff on it. We're humans. We sit there and go, oh, that's a nice place to hang things. Kind of like we do with treadmills, bikes, and everything else that come in our house, right? That's visual control. That is a way to signal to yourself or to others, this is the process, this is the necessity. Okay? If you got honeydew projects, which, believe you me, anytime you own a home, you own a honeydew project. Maybe go ahead and get your items that you need in order, and then create your project list by hanging up your different project materials. If you need to work on, let's say, a sink, well, I might not get to it today, but I can go ahead and set up for it. And then I set my projects in order of importance. Good way to do a visual control, right? Well, I can't get to this right this second, but here's the most important thing I've got to do when I do get my day off. Why? Because this is a red flag to me. I can visually see that, yes, the dripping faucet has been going on for X amount of time. I got to fix that. How do I know that I still have to fix it? It's staring me right in the face. That is visual control. Okay? So does that make sense, guys? Visual controls, we generally think about it as something used in manufacturing. One of the biggest things they use is, well, let's talk about cashiers down at places like Target and Walmart. How do they signal that they're open? They turn on the light, right? Cashiers at Target and Walmart turn on that light right overhead to signal that they're open. That is what is called a visual signal. We won't go into some of this stuff, but it is a visual signal to customers saying this person's line is open. How do the managers know if a cashier needs help? They have that second part of that switch that makes the light flash. Why? Because that's a visual signal to get the manager's attention, saying, well, I need somebody to come do this. I need you to bring me more coins. I need more $5 bills. Things like that. Okay? So in a warehouse situation, what's one of the biggest things we use is we use the stoplight system. So if a cell is in use, it's generally got a green light. If it needs maintenance if it's not in use, they can use things like green lights. But if it is in use, they use something along the lines of maybe a yellow light saying that, there's kind of an issue going on, but hey, we need some help. Or there is somebody here that needs assistance. Generally, if you switch on a red light with those, it's a way to call managers and maintenance to help and say, why is this machine broken? Okay. So this is a warehouse shipping and receiving area. This is a before. Doesn't look very good, does it? Kind of looks like you trip over your own 2 feet if you look anywhere or walk anywhere if you're not careful. So then here's a simplified one. It's not the best picture, but they've got everything shelved and stocked where it needs to be. They've cleared the aisles. They've created aisles. That's the big one, right? because you create that aisle people can move through, forklifts can go through. And then you've got a desk area where somebody can be at shipping and receiving should they need it. Okay? So the biggest part about visual controls to go along with your tools and techniques here, I'm going to kind of sum this up and let y'all go a little bit early tonight because this class ends at 8, right? All right. The biggest thing about visual controls is to create a way to signal. Because humans, believe it or not, we are very visual creatures, right? How do you know somebody's happy? Well, generally, there's some form of an expression on their face that says they're happy. How do we tell if there's an issue? Well, we visually can see it. Do we always listen to anything we hear? No, not really. They do all sorts of studies that humans don't pay as much attention to what they hear as what they see. It's kind of like rubbernecking. Somebody has a wreck, what do we all freaking want to do every time we're in traffic? We don't want to sit there and go, do I know that person? Why? Because visually our brain sits there and goes, huh, what's that? Interesting. Doesn't mean it's right, but we do it. So visual controls are another way we can create that 5S and we can stick to it. Okay? So we will leave it there for tonight.